Thank you, Ajahn. With this, may we please invite Ajahn to begin the session by leading us in a short guided meditation, please, Ajahn.
Okay. Okay, good morning. Welcome everybody, wherever you are in the world. So if you sit in an upright position, take a relaxed posture. And whatever posture you have chosen, just relax into that posture you have chosen. And it's best to keep the back straight. And I'm guiding you how to tune into the goodness. I call this tuning into the goodness. So once you have relaxed the posture, relax the body, close the eyes, and we are turning the attention inwards. We draw the attention inwards to an inward kind of reflection. So once the eyes are closed, the ears, so no sight, the ears leave the sound, turning off the ears, no focusing on any smells, no tasting, no physical touch. So allow the mind to go inwards. So there could be an internal monologue or internal vibration. Allow things to quieten down. Simply ask the mind not to construct. That's the nature of the mind. Just asking the mind not to construct. And we can reflect, put the attention to the breath if one can feel it. But now we are giving the mind something to construct. Ask the mind to reflect on something good that was done, maybe today or in the recent past or way back. Just remembering an act of goodness. Bring to the mind that act of goodness, something wholesome that was done. It could be act of generosity, act of kind words, act of service, or restraining oneself from an argument just out of that restraining is what one did to stop an argument. So just think of this act of goodness. It's not that to create a self-view, an ego, but what is it in that act? What is it that made it good? Investigate to observe the quality of the mind that was when the act of goodness was done. So contemplate on this example. What was it that made it good? What was given away? Whether it's time, money, effort, or whatever. And just tune into this act of goodness. If it's giving, there's so much goodness in generosity. It's restraining oneself out of kindness. This is the act of kindness one did. So just bring to the mind that goodness, being non-judgmental. So in the same way, we can also contemplate an act of goodness done by another person. Seeing what is it that made it good. We're trying to endorse the goodness that surrounds us. This field of goodness, the frequency of goodness, tapping into this goodness and uplifting the mind, and the mind becomes expansive. There's no remorse, no regrets. The mind is in a wholesome space. So, doing meditation like this, what we do is we uplift the mind to a wholesome space. We can recognize these fields of goodness that's available and make the mind expansive. No remorse, no hindrances are present when we tune into this goodness, free of defilements. There's true joy and lightness. Rejoice in the goodness one has done, rejoicing in the goodness that is around us. So we are tapping into this field of goodness. We alleviate the stress, we remove the defilements from the mind, and we uplift the mind by tuning into this goodness. We are letting go of stress, dukkha. So in the same way, once we are tapping into this field of goodness, we can think of the Buddha who has helped living beings, countless living beings, tirelessly out of compassion. Think of that compassion Buddha had. And all the arahants who are living in pure abodes, thinking of their goodness. There's no me and mine in goodness. It's a field of goodness. Once we have expanded our mind into this way, we can establish right view and we can establish the Eightfold Path. With the right view follows the right thought, thoughts of renunciation, thoughts of non-ill will, thoughts of non-harming. In this way we find it, we are in a place to bear with what is difficult to bear and see how the meditation, doing meditation in this way, how the mind can be uplifted. Just check what the mind was like before reflecting like this and see the state of mind after reflecting like this. So we sit quietly for 10 minutes in this way. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Tanajan. We would like to now request for the Dhamma.
Ramajaloka Dipati Sahampati Katham Jalian Tibarang Ayajatam Santi Dasata Faraja Kajatika Desi Tutamang Anugam Bhimang Vajam.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. I'd like to start by saying thank you for the invitation to address this group, which has been going on for some time, I gather, and also that you spend this period of 3 months reigns, just like the monastics who tend to spend time during this during the rains retreats. Even the monastics all around the world, they spend more time reflecting on the Dhamma and the Vinaya. So I'm glad that the group that is here is also taking note of that and making sure that this 3-month period that you try to be with the teachings and have the make yourself available to have the opportunity to listen to Dhamma. So thank you for the invitation. So I'll talk a bit about, give a short reflection on Dhamma. So it's about handful of leaves. I'm sure this phrase is very familiar to most of you, I suppose. So Buddha was, asking once in the forest, going to the forest, picking a handful of leaves and asking the monks, what do you think, bhikkhus, are the leaves in the forest? Okay, when you compare the leaves in the forest and the leaves in my hand, what is more? Are the leaves in the forest more, or are my leaves in my hand more than leaves in the forest? And because there's no comparison to the leaves in the forest and the leaves in your hand, because what is the leaves in in the hand is very small compared to the leaves in the forest. So then Buddha said what he knows is compared to the leaves in the forest, and what he teaches is compared to the leaves in his hand. So that's a very important thing to remember. There are so many things that the mind can get into, all the metaphysical questions like about the world, the beginning of the world, the end of the world, and all these things. They don't help us to make our minds get free from greed, hatred, and delusion. Because all the teachings are pointing to is how we can cleanse these minds, which is full of greed, hatred, and delusion. And to do that, all is needed is a handful of leaves. That's the Four Noble Truths. So, talking about the Four Noble Truths, what Buddha was talking about is this unsatisfactoriness, the first Noble Truth. What did Buddha mean by this, that there is unsatisfactoriness? what he said, that there is dukkha. Birth is dukkha, aging, sickness, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair, not getting what wants, an association with disliked and separation from the liked. And in brief, he said the 5 focuses of identity are dukkha. So these 5 focuses of identity, that is the 5 aggregates. We are nothing but these 5 aggregates, that is form, feeling, perception, mental volitional formations, and consciousness. So just to understand a bit about this, what is this unsatisfactoriness or the stress, a better word to put it, that Buddha was talking about? Because we might feel there are pleasures in this life, it's not that there are no pleasures in this life, but there is this lacking that we all feel. There is this underlying unsatisfactoriness. And that's what Buddha was constantly talking about. Because once we are born, we do get old, do get sick and die. That is, nobody can stop that. And we have to learn to live in a way that is not stressful to the mind. And these stresses or unsatisfactorinesses are very much constructed in the mind, because the mind is the forerunner, isn't it? We have no control on these bodies. We might think that we have, but we don't really. As everybody is, the body we live in it's getting old. It from the day we conceived, it's only heading in one direction, isn't it? Getting old, declining. We think we are growing up, but it's heading towards declining, because that's what the bodies do. All these cells, they change, they get old, and that we have experienced. We all know, I mean, we all have lived 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, or whatever years, or 70, whatever years we have lived. We know how much uh, unpleasantness, the dukkha, each person has to undergo. That is very obvious to all of us now that we have grown up. It's we are all brothers and sisters in old age, sickness, and death. So that's common to all of us. And it's nothing personal. So, how do we live with this fact now that we are born into these bodies? So, the bodies, we have to look after our bodies, that's true, but the bodies are not in our control. The nature will take care, it follows its own way. The body doesn't ask us, can I fall sick? No, it just happens. But the mind, we have this body and the mind. But the mind training is what the Buddha's teachings are pointing to. That's the handful of leaves Buddha was talking about. So this mind training that can happen, and each one of us is capable of doing that, because you all have come across the Buddha's teachings. That's why you're here. And you have some trust in it. That's why you wish to explore this the Dhamma the Buddha has been left behind for us. So this mind training is the one that we need to put our energy on. We have to put all our effort on doing this mind training. So the mind training that needs to happen is knowing how the mind works. And we are constantly seeking for happiness, or call it pleasant sensual desires, isn't it? We are constantly looking for happiness through our sensual desire, our sense organs, because we have these 5 sense organs: the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, and the body. Those are 5 external sense organs. And then the 6th one being the mind. That's the internal one. So what we try to do is, from these 5 external sense organs, through sight, sound, smell, flavor, touch, With all these 5 external sense organs, we take sense impressions. And we think the pleasure can be achieved by these sense organs. That's what we need to understand, that these pleasures, yes, there are pleasures. There are beautiful sights, beautiful sounds, smells, flavors, touches, but they are very temporary, isn't it? This arising and ceasing nature, the unsatisfactoriness is because they keep changing all the time. And we are investing so much on something that is changing to make us happy. So that's the foolishness, or that's the ignorance we have. So that's what we need to understand. It's nothing personal, it's the way, that's how it is. So more we understand this process and more we come to terms with this process, we can see where we are creating the suffering in our minds. Because all the sense impressions that are taken by these 5 external sense doors, and that's the first contact. The eye sees an object, and then the eye consciousness arises, which is one of the 5 khandhas. And then it's just merely a contact, the eye, the object, and the eye consciousness. Those 3 come together, that's the contact. And with that contact, a feeling arises. So when you take these 3 objects, the eye, the external object, and the eye consciousness, they're all impermanent, isn't it? Because the eye, maybe now the eye is working well, but in 10 years' time, who knows what will happen, or even tomorrow. Because it has this nature to change, the eye faculty. And the external object will also change. It can't stay the same. What we, in our mind, we make it, or it will stay the same, or my child, or whatever, this person will be the same. No, this external object that we have invested on to give us pleasure, that person will also change. And the I consciousness, it arises and ceases, isn't it? The consciousness arises and ceases. It's not a long flow of consciousness. That's the nature of the consciousness. So we are heavily relying on 3 things, the I, the external object, and the I consciousness, which is constantly changing, impermanent. We are in thinking that this will bring us long-lasting happiness. So we have completely forgotten the anicca, the impermanence. Because of impermanence, there is unsatisfactoriness. So if there is impermanence and if there is unsatisfactoriness, if something is changing, how can we make it me and mine? How can there be any ownership? So that's the kind of wise attention we need to have with the mind training. So when the feeling arises, when we see something, either it's pleasant or unpleasant. The pleasantness cannot be maintained. When the pleasantness ceases, what happens? It becomes unpleasant because we are unhappy because that the pleasant feeling has changed. So what we try to do? We again try to get that pleasant feeling. That's the unsatisfactoriness we are constantly being in contact with, because we think that pleasantness must be maintained. So when it becomes unpleasant, we are immediately running back to this object. Okay, I need another object. I need to replace it with something. But we are not recognizing the fact that it is impermanent. Therefore, it will be unsatisfactory, and there's no way there can be an ownership of this. There is no me and mineness in something that keeps changing. So this is the unwise attention we put on when this process takes place. So if we can understand this process, the stress that is created in the mind, because there's beauty, there's pleasantness, there's all that, there's beauty in everything, but our relationship to it is what we call sensual desire. We give unwise attention to this beauty, that is thinking it will be permanent, it will make me happy, and I can own it. So as long as we give this unwise attention to these sense contacts we have through these 5 sense external organs, we create stress, we create unsatisfactoriness in the mind. Just remember, these are created in the mind. This is what the 5 khandhas do. We see the form, the feeling arises, then the perception gives it a value, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. Then the sankharas, the volitional formations, are created because we create a story. That all happens in the mind. That's the mind faculty, the internal sense faculty, the mind faculty. All the impressions that we took from the other 5, we construct everything in the mind. And that's the process we need to understand. And that process is within ourselves. That's what these teachings and meditation is helping us to understand. Because meditation is just reflecting and contemplating on this process, the mind process. So the more we try to understand what sense pleasures are, what is the gratification, how short-lived are these sense pleasures, then the dangers and the escape, that's all we need to understand. So to understand these sense pleasures, how we constantly chase these sense pleasures thinking they will give us gratification, this gratification is very short-lived. We all know that. That's why life is unsatisfactory, because we are constantly chasing these pleasures, thinking that we can maintain it as much as possible. We forget we have the unwise attention. So that's the gratification is very short-lived, isn't it? Because if we have something to eat, we have one bite, and we love the taste. Naturally, it must be taste very delicious, and we like to maintain that taste because we like that feeling, and the taste buds have been tantalized, so we like to keep this feeling going. So we have another bite in order to keep this taste alive. Have this prolong this feeling of pleasant taste that one has felt on the tongue. But it's very short-lived, isn't it? Only when we swallow the food from here to here, it's gone. And that feeling is gone. And the taste consciousness has died. We have to start it again. So just to understand this is what's happening. And we have another bite, another bite, another bite. But we can still enjoy the food. It's nothing that it's not, the Buddha is not saying there's no enjoyment in these eating or these things, but we get drunk in them, we get intoxicated. And that intoxication that happens with it is what the 5 khandhas, the 5 aggregates, what the mind is doing. The mind is saying, constructing. Okay, it died, so do it again, go back to that object. If we have lost something, okay, find a replacement. It's not that we mustn't go for things if something is broken. Yes, we have to replace it, but that nature of clingingness, thinking that this satisfaction is not short lived, not understanding the nature, that of course the I can get a next one, but that has the capacity to break as well. But not going down, let the mind go down with it rather than seeing, okay, this will break, this is broken, okay, I'll find a replacement, but see how the mind gets so depressed with it because we haven't understood the true nature of these this existence. So the more we can see the gratification and the danger, the escape can happen. So that's what Buddha is talking about. In Pali, it's asada adinava nisarana. That is, we understand the gratification, we understand the dangers, and we go understand the escape. So there are many similes and there are many suttas Buddha has used to understand the sensual pleasures. So I'll give few similes to make it alive because in Buddha's teachings, I'm sure you're all aware that Buddha uses a lot of similes to make us understand the true nature of what's really taking place. So they're very graphic similes. I'll share a couple of similes with you. So there's this is from a sutta called Potaliya Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya. Buddha says that sense pleasures is like a dog is approaching a butcher and a hungry dog. And what a butcher does is it takes a bone, removes all the flesh, and the butcher throws this the meatless bone to the dog. And the dog sees this bone, and immediately dog thinks, oh, and it smells of meat and it's blood stained. So the dog is very attracted to this bone, and the dog immediately kind of chew into this, and he gnaws into this bone, but there's no meat there. All the dog is licking and biting. The dog must be hurting his mouth as well, and maybe his the blood will come out of his mouth because of the bone, because he's biting into a bone thinking there is meat here, but the dog hasn't got the idea that there is no meat here. So the dog keeps biting, thinking, okay, I keep biting, it will give me some meat if I keep biting. So that's what Buddha compared the sensual pleasures to, that it's that hope. So that's one simile to compare, a simile which Buddha used to understand the nature of sensual pleasures. Another simile is, it's coming from another sutta. It's in the Mahagadhya Sutta. A leper with who has a lot of a lot of wounds. The leper is really his wounds have infested, and they have the scabs. They're so much infested. It's full of pus and even worms. So the leper is really struggling with these wounds on his skin, on his body. So what the leper does is the leper goes and sits by a charcoal pit and cauterizes the wounds to get some relief from it. So the leper's friends and family see this predicament and take this leper and give the leper to a physician and give the leper some medicine, putting ointments and all kinds of things. The leper becomes cured. He's free of leprosy. So now the leper is free of leprosy. So he's freely roaming about because he's free of leprosy. So when when this person who had leprosy before was roaming around, two strong men take this person by his arms and drag him to the charcoal pit. And Buddha asked, what would that person do? Because that person wouldn't want to go near the charcoal pit. Because, why is that? Because he knows that the charcoal pit is hot and scorching, and going near it, he knows that he will be burned. So the Buddha asked, didn't this person know that this charcoal pit was burning and hot before when he had leprosy? Of course he knew. But he had this distorted perception. We are constantly have this distorted perception. He had this distorted perception, this will give me, he knew it's hot and scorching, but he knew it will give some temporary relief when he had the wounds. But now he's cured of leprosy. He doesn't need the medicine. So he's trying his level best not to go near the charcoal pit, though these two strong men are dragging him, because that he was going there with a distorted perception before. Now he's keeping away from the charcoal pit. So this is exactly what happens to us when we find through meditation, through mind training, there's the pleasure that arises in the mind, isn't it? Meditation, when we develop our minds, we develop our faculties, the faith faculty, the faith, effort, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom faculty, they get developed. And when they are developed, the mind is uplifted, isn't it? The mind is going to a place where it is not relying on sensual pleasures. We have understood through our own experience that there is some other pleasure, there is happiness other than this. So when we know that, that's why the person no longer wants to go to the charcoal pit, because the person knows that the disease is cured, is no longer having leprosy. So the person is aware of that fact. There's no need to go to near the charcoal pit. So this is how we try to understand the true nature of sense pleasures and how the mind can be uplifted through meditation, through following Buddha's teachings, spending our time, investing our time and energy whenever we can. I know living in the world is not easy. We have to, all of you have to find a job or money to put food on the table, but knowing the true nature of our existence, showing the true nature of the feelings, how things get constructed in the mind with wrong, distorted perceptions. It's called vipallasa, distortions that happen in the mind. That is, we think this is something unpleasant, we call it pleasant. Something that has no own, we can't own, we try to make it as mine. And something which is impermanent, we see it as permanent. These are the distorted perceptions we have. And the more we see through these distorted perceptions and be careful about the process that goes through the mind process, how the mind construct everything, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, how the mind construct a full story around these sense objects and see it when it happens, understanding its true nature, the danger of it, that it will never satisfy us like the meatless bone, and then understanding the escape, that is establishing the right view, isn't it? That's the Eightfold Path. That's the handful of leaves we need, the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. So when that right view is established in the mind, well, when the right view is established within our psyche, and right thoughts will follow. That's not thoughts of sensual pleasure, but thoughts of renunciation. Not thoughts of ill will, thoughts of non-ill will. And not the thoughts of harming, thoughts of non-harming. So the right thoughts will follow when the right view is established within ourselves, according to the Four Noble Truths. So this is the short, the process of how the mind behaves in within our psyche. How to follow the process that take place within our within the human mind, because it's all clearly explained how these things, how the human mind can be trained. So that's why it's these are underlying tendencies we have, because we have experienced these we have had experiences with this. We have seen, heard, smelled, tasted and touched things before, and that memory is there with us. That's the underlying tendency we have. That's called the underlying tendencies we have. We are constantly trying to recreate these underlying tendencies. And when we these underlying tendencies are there, and it keeps reminding us, look, you have done it before, and then we are reminded of these experiences. That's when the restraint and the precepts help. That's why the precepts, the moral code, is so important to us. So when the mind is creating this story and pushing us to do things, it's best to remember that stage. It's like the remembering the restraint aspect and the sila aspect, and not following the mind. We remember that quality we have, the restraint and the moral code we have undertaken. It's like the defilements have, we understand the defilements have, kind of waiting to enter the mind or entered the mind, but we use the sila or the moral code we take, or the restraint aspect we have within ourselves, to not to follow it. It's like there's a kettle boiling on the stove, on the fire. The old-fashioned kettles, when it boils, it spouts out the water, isn't it? So it's the kettle is boiling. The defilements have entered the mind, but they're just dormant. First they're staying dormant, and when we see the dormant ones, the sense impingement from externally activates it, and then the defilements enter the mind. Then we can use the restraint or our moral code we hold, the sila aspect. But if it's still kept on, the kettle is still kept on the fire, the water spouts out, isn't it? In the old-fashioned kettles, it comes out. So if we don't go through that, we act on these defilements. So that's what we need to stop at that point, not to act on these defilements. So either we speak, act, and then the results we all know. If we act on these defilements, what happens? So this is the process that takes place in the mind, with the thinking process or the mind process that takes place in the mind. And I think this is all I like to share this morning as a reflection, how we can train our minds to overcome that's the sense pleasures that arise in the mind. It's knowing how to relate to the sense of beauty, and then the how we have to reflect on this object, the beauty aspect of beauty, our relationship to it. It's not that there is no beauty or there's no pleasant things in the world, but our relationship to it is what we can train on and understand, and make that very obvious to us using the Buddha's teachings, and how to reduce the stresses that arise in the mind, and how to have a stress-free life using meditation and Buddha's teachings to live the life in a way that is peaceful. So I like to end the reflection here, and I think I need to open for questions and answers, correct?
Angamayang vada kataya satu karang tatamase sadhu 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 anumodami.
Thank you so much, Ajahn. Thank you. This is a very, very apt session to be reminded of coming back to the core, the Noble Eightfold Paths, and the Four Noble Truths. So this is the time for questions and answers. Ajahn will take questions from anyone here in the room. If you'd like to click on the raise hand button, we'll invite you to unmute. Or you can also type your question in the chat box, and we'll read out to Ajahn, and she will try to respond to them. Okay, I've got the first question here, Ajahn. Let me read it out to you. It is from someone here, Lai San. The question is, what's Ajahn's views on having right view through two modes of practice? First, it's through the doctrinal scriptural precision. That means exactly according to what's taught in the Buddha. The second is through lived experiences with the Buddha's teachings on general basis.
I think both modes. One has to, yes, we need to hear the Dhamma first. I think without hearing the Dhamma, how are we going to establish right view? Because if there's a Buddha comes to the world only to help the beings with little dust in their eyes, because if there's no old age, sickness, and death, if everything is constant, do we need a Buddha? There's only one. So a Buddha comes to the world. The Buddha discovers, every Buddha discovers these Four Noble Truths, and he comes to the world merely for that. So we need to hear the Dhamma first. So that's very important. We need to hear the Dhamma, then we need to reflect and contemplate on the Dhamma. That's the second aspect. Just merely hearing, well, we read many things, but it's not like in school, we listen to things and we memorize them, and we go to the exam paper, answer the questions, and we get the certificate. It's not like that. This is an experiential thing. Then the next stage comes, because you're asking what the experiential is. That's the second aspect of the thing, isn't it? The question. Yeah. So it's I can see the question.
Yeah, the question is
According to what's taught, yeah, and the other through lived experience with the teachings.
that's
and,
right.
Yeah,
Lived experience.
Yeah, lived experience, of course. So once you hear and reflect and contemplate on the Dhamma, then we have to experience this. It's not like memorizing in school and passing exams. No, this is a wisdom teaching, isn't it? It's not a passing exams teaching. But one has to know the theory. Without the theory, where we need to hear it first. We need to hear it, read it, and then we take it to internally, and we reflect and contemplate and match it to our real life experience. Naturally, we have to match it with our real life experience. Then only we can see it happening within us, because the Buddha said this mind and the body is the laboratory. Everything happens in this fathom long body. Yes, the old age sickness happens in the body, all the defilements enter the mind. It all happens in this fathom long body. So then once we have understood or read these teachings and reflected on it and contemplated on it, we can experience it. How to have sense restraint, what the precepts do. Oh, I prevented entering into an argument. I remembered the precept, so I didn't sign that deal, whatever, So remember the second precept, So I didn't, take part in that deal. So just remembering the precepts, that's why they're so important. So experiencing it, unless we know it, hear it, we wouldn't know it to act on it, isn't it? So that's the experiential level. And then when the anger arises, we recognize anger has arisen in the mind, because if we have the mindfulness and we step back, we don't act on that anger. And when jealousy arises, we recognize this jealousy has arisen in the mind, so we acknowledge it. So that's the experience. So that's how we establish right view. If right view is established, I'm sure that's what arahants have. They only have right view. In the Eightfold Path, right thought follows right view. So their thoughts may be only thoughts of renunciation, thoughts of non-evil, thoughts of non-harming. I think it's very obvious, isn't it? When we have the right view, I have to say, it's when that right view is established, the thoughts will follow. Yeah, I hope that's enough for that.
Thank you, Ajahn. I think a license follow-up clarification is is the right view. So is the right view established first from scriptural verifications before everything else?
Yes, I mean, definitely, because for me, right view, according to the Eightfold Path, right view, I'll take a mundane example. For me, the right view is not knowing the Four Noble Truths, that's not knowing the dukkha. Because imagine, I'll take a mundane example. Imagine you want to buy a curtain or something for the house. So if you want to buy a curtain, first one has to measure. These are mundane right view, okay? One has to measure the curtain, then one has to decide the color of the wall, and then if somebody wants to match everything, then what color you go for, and then of course which shop you go to, I don't know, whatever, what is the trend, which shop is the having the trend to go to buy curtains, and then and then the budget, how much money do I have, what's the budget. So all that must be established before buying this curtain, isn't it? So for me, that's a mundane right view, having all those facts before embarking on buying a curtain. So in the same way, the right view must be established, knowing, reading and hearing the scripture teachings, and then understanding.
Yes.
Yes.
So licenses, thank you, Ajahn. I think what Ajahn is also trying to say is once we understand, we have to put it into our own personal practice. And through that, that reflection, then, we will then establish even greater clarity to the experiences.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn. There is another question that's here. Let me please read it out to you, Ajahn. It says, in the context of the practice of mindfulness, how can one cultivate a sense of acceptance and non-judgment towards one's thoughts and emotions, even when these are challenging or painful?
Yes, it's the person is having enough mindfulness to know that these thoughts are, they said, challenging and painful. Is that the phrase that was
That's
used
right.
here? Yeah, so the person is aware that these challenging and painful thoughts have arisen in the mind. So that person has some mindfulness on it, yes, but don't judge them. That's the thing. This is the key word. When we are very good at judging others, of course we are all familiar with that, how judgmental we can be on externals. We are very good at judging others. So what we do externally, we do internally as well. When those thoughts arise, just be aware that these are very challenging and painful, but don't judge oneself too much. Don't put oneself down. That's called derogation. I know there are many defilements that arise in the mind. They are called minor defilements. And one of them is derogation, that is erasing one's own good. And the more we get used to it, we become very judgmental, and we all have good, and there's goodness, and there's wholesome and unwholesome, isn't it? It's a fact. So just don't erase everything away on account of something that has arisen. Once when one is aware that this is painful or challenging or not wholesome or not skillful, just recognizing that is establishing mindfulness. But don't go to the next stage of judging oneself, erasing one's own good. I don't know whether that helps. So that's something we all do, and we become very aware of this quality.
I hope that answers the question from the person who asked the question. Anyone else who's got further question to ask Ajahn? Maybe if I may ask Ajahn, in your many years of practice, how do you find a balance, and how do you practice having? How do you train to be equanimous, Ajahn? Because being a nun is not easy.
You can say that, yes. Yeah, people think it's once you leave the monastic lay life, everything will be easy. Life is not easy, that's why birth is dukkha, is I do understand. Because once you're born into a body, one has to take care of this body. And to take care of this body, you have to have food, shelter, clothes, and medicine. And one has to there's the basic four things that we need, isn't it? So without that, we can't survive. So it is dukkha. It's a gradual training. I have to say, whether you're a nun or a lay person, it doesn't matter, but it's a gradual training. So having expectations that, oh, I have been practicing for so long, things needs to change. That is, expectation and judging oneself. So it's a gradual training. It happens gradually. And the more we recognize when things happen, and more we have the confidence, the faith, the confidence aspect of it, having that faith and confidence and trust. So it's a gradual training. And once that confidence and trust is established and put in the right effort, that's very important. Just and also being honest to oneself. We really need to be honest to ourselves. That's the most important thing. That the fact that we need to recognize this is unskillful, I behave badly. Simple. Need to be honest to oneself. Then make a determination. I will endeavor to do better, rather than, okay, don't go for the chocolate, or don't try to seek sensual pleasures to overcome it. No, just accept this was badly done. That's it. Either ask for forgiveness, or just be honest to oneself and endeavor to do better. I think that's the only way equanimity can, come into. That's what I feel. I hope that answers you. I don't know whether it's enough.
Yes.
Because there's no kind of a no shortcuts. No, there are no shortcuts. So let things happen and be honest to oneself and having the trust that yes, maybe 2 years ago I would have reacted very differently to that and see, oh, I'm not that reactive now, 2 years on. So that's progress, isn't it? So
Thank you.
take that into consciousness that yes, there is progress, but not full scale,
Yeah.
progress.
Thank you, Ajahn. I think we're all very curious of your own personal experiences. We've heard a lot about monk stories, but we haven't heard about nun stories yet.
Is that a question?
So one day, if Ajahn wants to share more of the nun stories, we're all here to listen.
Okay. If there are no questions, okay. Are there any questions?
That is a question, Ajahn. If there is
Okay.
a story about.
Reminding.
Sorry.
Okay.
The question here is, dear Ajahn, we know we shouldn't judge, but what can we do to be less judgmental?
Okay. And is there another one to reminding us of that we should not judge ourselves in the learning?
That was Lysan's
Uh-oh.
appreciation comment to you to say
Okay,
that
okay,
thank you, Ajahn, for reminding us that we should not judge ourselves in the learning
okay.
path. Yeah.
Yeah, we know we shouldn't judge, but what can we do to be less judgmental? What can we? Well, I feel that in all these thoughts that arise in the mind, when we recognize it, to a certain extent, we disempower them. So just noticing that this, I'm being very judgmental. This is a very judgmental thought of mine. And yes, it must have been something that wasn't done in a beautiful way. That's a fact. But at the same time, that's what I'm saying, don't erase all your goodness on account of that. So have a balance saying, yes, this was, but then having the faith and making that determination, I will endeavor to do better. And forgiving oneself, because forgiving oneself is also important, isn't it? But doesn't mean keep doing the same thing 10 times. No, that's not. But forgiving oneself, yes, But then take heed that this needs. I need to take real, put good effort. I need to put my effort into this next time. That's something one has to have that determination. Really. It's because those are qualities, those are the paramis Buddha was fulfilling, before becoming a Buddha, all this the patience, endurance, effort, determination. These are qualities, isn't it? These are things that we can really remember. Having that determination and putting the effort. Effort is not, you know it's not full blown effort. It's just the four right efforts we all know, to recognize it's wholesome or unwholesome, and to overcome them and develop the wholesome and overcome the unwholesome, isn't it? Simple as that. It's that honesty. That's why I'm saying that's the most important thing. And then the more we can do that, well, we have confidence in ourselves. And don't forget to congratulate yourself, not to make yourself egocentric, okay? No, I'm the best person, I'm the one who's doing it best. No, just to recognize, okay, 2 years on, I don't react as much. Thank you, Buddha. Go do it that way. being grateful to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, showing our gratitude to our teachers, and that way it's not I am so important, I'm doing it well, but do recognize when it's done in a good way as well. Because that's also important, isn't it? So remember to forgive oneself and recognize that one has done something, has progressed, and then having gratitude. Gratitude is very, very important. The gratitude and the faith and the trust, those are really good qualities one must constantly remember. So that's the only way that the judgmental side of us can be diminished. Because when we are the other side, of course, this side get diminished, isn't it? Because we the more we cultivate that gratitude and patience, the other side gets dropped. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? We have time for one more question. Anyone who wants to put up your hand and ask a question? Give a comment? Anyone? It is very rare to have a nun here speaking with us. So I always cherish a time to have conversations with the bhikkhuni, because I think they do also have got a journey, and that journey is compared to the bhikkhus. In my eyes and in my experience, it's a lot harder. So there's a lot of wisdom that comes up from their own personal practices, and definitely, Ajahn Khemaka is someone whom I've met for many years, that exudes that whole experience. Right. So, Lyson has got a question. See, Ajahn, I think you can't avoid this question anymore. The question is, would Ajahn be so kind to share the challenges that are faced by the bhikkhunis?
Okay. Well, as you know, we are not bhikkhunis, we are a Siladhara order. I'll just say that, but you can call us anything. Life is challenging. I feel life is challenging anyway. It's not that whether you're a bhikkhu or bhikkhuni or upasaka, upasika, or a lay follower, a lay female follower, a lay male follower, or monastic, male monastic or female monastic, life is challenging. So what I think is, for me, when these challenges come, I feel that, I know if uh, in family life, of course, I understand there's this attachment, there's this clinging, this me and mine, and that aspect, the relationships between people is very much clingy, and it's very much is invested as you are mine, you have to help me, please me, this and that. And there's a lot of tension created because of that. There's a lot of expectation with that clinging. I'm talking about the attachment, the clinging, the tanha, the craving. It's very heavy. And what I'm thinking is, when there are challenges in community life, trust me, don't think that we are free from challenges. But what I feel is, at least there's not that bond, that attachment. I don't cling to anybody. That's my policy. You don't cling to anybody here. So that, and I can imagine if somebody falls sick, and getting old is not easy. I can experience it very much living in the community, and but when it happens within the family, it's very challenging, isn't it? It's very challenging and painful. It's still challenging, but the painfulness can be avoided by not taking it personally, but using it from a Dhamma perspective, because we are amongst monastics, whereas with family ties, we take it very personal, isn't it? That's how I see it, So these are the challenges I'm facing at the moment. That's the only thing I can say. But apart from that, there are normal challenges about being self-righteous, having to let go of the your identity. That's all there. We are not free from all that. So those are the challenges I meet, and also in as that's basically what I have to say. The challenges are all because of that self view, identity view. It's nothing, just being a bhikkhuni or bhikkhu or upasaka upasika, but it's being born into a human existence.
Mm.
It's dukkha, I tell you. Plenty of dukkha.
Yes, Ajahn, I really like your candidness and your honesty, and how you help us to see things in a balance,
Mm,
without conventions, and just as it is. It's like what Luang Por Sumedho says. This is just as it is.
mm.
Yes, right. So yes, that's someone says, yeah, thank you so much, Ajahn. Ajah's honesty is very inspiring. Okay, so
Thank you.
actually, thank you. I think that's all the time that we have today, because we're just right ahead of time for Ajahn to prepare herself to be receiving her meal uh, at the sala. But before we close, we'd like to invite Ajahn Khemaka to lead us in the recitation on the verses of sharing and aspiration. The words will be put up on screen, and if Ajahn could lead us in this recitation, it would be really helpful.
Okay. Okay. So now let us chant the verses of sharing and aspiration. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless. Through the goodness that arises from my practice and through this act of sharing, may all cravings and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind until I realize Nibbana in every kind of birth. May I have an upright mind with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble Lord. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled.
Thank you so much. And in closing the session, I'd like to invite everyone to join me in paying respects to Triple Jan, and taking leave from Ajahn Khemaka with a lot of sincerity, gratitude, and love from our hearts to Ajahn Khemaka. We wish her well, to be kept in good health, good spirit, and a big warm smile on her face every time you meet her. So with that, let us all now chant Araham Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Avivademi Swakato Bhagavatam Dhammam Namasami Suparipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sangam Namami.
Okay, just to say,
Yes.
wish you all well, and thank you for inviting me once again, and wish you all well. Go well wherever you are. Take care.
Now that Ajahn has turned around, let us all now pay respects to him, to her 3 vows. Now that she's turned around, because she had her back to us. Let's bow. Second. We really wish you well, Ajahn, and I hope to see you again at Amaravati or somewhere around the UK.
Okay, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.